physicists have measured half a dozen or so fundamental constants, things like the gravitational constant, which are very critical in the sense that if they were ever so slightly different, the universe as we know it wouldn't come into being. There wouldn't be galaxies, there wouldn't be stars, there wouldn't be chemistry, there wouldn't be planets, there wouldn't be us, wouldn't be evolution. It can be argued that these constants are very finely tuned.
This is a pathetically sad argument. For something to be tuned, it requires that it could have parts that can be tuned. It could have different constants that can be tuned. God, since he is one, not made up of any parts, never began to exist, never came from anything, and was not constructed. He was not finely tuned and never needed to be finely tuned because God is not something that you can or cannot tune.
In spite of this, I've never been accused of Christophobia, but I am regularly berated for Islamophobia, and I even had a radio broadcast in California about a totally unrelated subject, cancelled because of my reputation for Islamophobia. Cancelled, mark you, not by Muslims, but by American so-called liberals. If Salman Rushdie fears Islam, it would not be an irrational fear. It would be eminently rational. At the whim of a nasty, bigoted old man in Iran, in character strongly resembling the Abrahamic God, Rushdie has lived much of his life with a massive bounty on his head. He's recently suffered a religiously motivated stabbing, which has left him blind in one eye. Rational fear is not phobia.
So his argument is as follows. He is not Islamophobic because Islam is something that you should rationally fear, or something you should fear if you are a rational human being. And the reason for this is because on the whim of any random Muslim, because of their religion, they can attack you. So you should have a rational fear of that religion. Now, let's apply this to atheism. On the whim of an atheistic leader, like the Communist Party in China, they have thrown Muslims into re-education centers, which are concentration camps, force them to drink alcohol, eat pork, abandon their religion, swear allegiance to the Communist Party, say that God does not exist, never pray, never fast, and so much more I cannot say because it would get everything taken down. I think there's still an episode up on the 3 Muslims about the Uyghurs in China. You can go listen to that. And I suggest you do, so you can learn about how atheism leads to moral atrocities and oppression of human beings, especially believers in God. And also, on the whim of somebody like Stalin, who killed millions. Some say maybe even 60 million. And some people died as a direct result of what he implemented and not as a direct result of him just killing them. Some people were forced into starvation, which killed them. And others were just straight up killed because of Stalin, who was, again, an atheist. This is such a good argument that Richard Dawkins made against atheism, because as Muslims, we are not allowed to go and just do random attacks against anyone. We don't have the right to do that as Muslims. God tells us we don't have the right. The people who have the right are the same people that throw people in jail. The government and the state. They're the only ones who can and should exercise these kind of punishments. Just like in the West and any other country in the world, the government and the judges are the ones who decide who gets the punishment. The best way to conduct such a system is under the laws of God, because God knows what's best for us, he tells us what's best for us, and gave us a perfect system of life so human beings can thrive. But atheism, on the other hand, has no moral bearing, no moral belief at all. Most atheists are materialists. They believe that the only thing that exists are physical things, particles, atoms, and the physical universe. Which means if you cut down a tree, morally it's no different than cutting down a child. As Muslims, that's not even true, first and foremost. But you as an atheist have no objective moral guidance to stop you from killing one person or millions of people like Stalin did. And there are many other examples. So your fear of Muslims actually is irrational. If you're really going to look at the data to see who you should fear and who you should watch out for, the data supports the fact that you should be wary of atheists such as yourself and not of Muslims. Some of the greatest atrocities, even in recent history, were carried out by atheists, not by Muslims. Firstly, we have Stalin murdered 20 million people. Mao Zedong's regime murdered 70 million people. Most mass murders were done by atheists. Even in recent histories, even in the West, most of them were carried out by atheists, not by Muslims, not by Christians, most by atheists. So we should fear atheists so much more, because although you want to throw this lie and this fake narrative onto Muslims that we're just barbarians and we just want to kill people and we're just, if we believe in God, we believe in religion, we're going to go around and kill people, they have no moral grounding. They can do whatever they want morally. They don't believe God is going to hold them accountable. God's not telling them what is right or wrong. So it's up to their own discretion. And clearly, the discretion of the atheist fails them. So do you also have a rational fear of atheism or a rational fear of atheists? Or are you just simply an Islamophobe who wants to propagate a false and Islamophobic narrative against simple, normal, regular, average, law-abiding Muslims? Everyone should accept the truth of Islam, submit to God, and contribute to making the world a better place, a place that is legislated by and only by God.